incorporation. Malaysia privatization, it became the main intention when Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad launched Malaysia Incorporated policy approach, initiated Malaysia's privatization policy in the middle of the year of 1983. Not to forget, this act of launching Malaysia Incorporated is actually inspired by Japan Incorporated, which meant viewing the country as a single corporation where the government provide and maintain the environment that's suitable for business and private enterprise, while the private sector as an engine of growth. Next is privatization policy is designed mainly to achieve a few objectives. The first objective is to reduce the financial and administrative burden of the government. Secondly, to promote competition, improve efficiency, and to increase productivity in delivering services. Third is to stimulate the private entrepreneurship and investment. Fourth is to reduce the presence and the size of the public sector with the monopolistic inclinations and bureaucratic support. And lastly is to assist in achieving the NEP objective, especially Bumiputra entrepreneurships.
Now we will move to the objective that we will focus in our project. The first one is we want to relieve the government burden, financial burden. Second one, we want to reduce the size and presence of the public sector in our economy. And third one is we want to meet the national requirement, NEP. Next, we will focus in the problems that we will face and we will discuss in our project. The first one is the first problem is we would like to attract investors to join the shared issues companies. The second problem is how we want to manage the transition from public to private sector. And finally, we want to participate the public towards the implementation of the privatization policy. Next, we will see 5 main strategies that the government has been doing in order to make privatization successful. The first one is the government provide loan for the new companies, new privatized companies. Secondly, the government create privatization action plan where each year the plan will be revised, will be reviewed. Third, the government introduced Malaysia Incorporated, which government and private sector work as a single business, which has been explained in the introduction just now. Fourth is the corporation corporatize the public enterprise while maintaining the government as the owner of the corporate. And finally, the government publishing privatization master plan as a guideline for the companies, for Malaysians, in order to make privatization successful. Next, we will look at the impact of privatization. Basically, privatization gives a very good impact to the economy. The first good effect is that privatization has facilitated and improved the economy recovery, thus lower the financial burden of the government. Secondly, the growth of the public sector has been the growth, and thus the financial cost of the public sector has been reduced. And finally, the position quota for Bumiputra has improved the life of Bumiputra itself. Thank you.
There are 3 main stakeholders that are focused by my group. There are Malaysia Airlines, Tenaga Nasional Berhad, and Proton. The main challenges faced by MAS is its performance did not improve expressively even after privatization. To make things worse, its financial even worsened considerably. Next, the challenges faced by TNB are to ensure that there is no political interference in the policy, besides tightness in fuel supply, industry control, and unsustainable tariff structure. Okay, next, the challenge faced by Proton are technology transfer problem besides limited domestic market size. Okay, now we move to benefit experienced by the stakeholders. Part of the benefit experienced by MAS are increase in its frequency on existing route, non-stop service, and negotiate more right to the growing market of Europe, Australia, and India. Next, the benefit experienced by TNB are that privatization helped in increasing the demand in electricity, besides overcoming the problem of shortage in fund that was faced by the government due to national burden. Lastly, we moved to the benefit experienced by Proton. Part of it are changes in the form of management and regulatory structure, besides providing more tractable management. Thank you.
Okay, in political economy analysis, there are 4 terms, which is political, economy, social and technology. First, let's see the example in the political. In the year 1993, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad launched Malaysian Incorporated Policy. This policy had suggested the role of the private sector in management and development of the country. Furthermore, this policy also is in line with the National Development Policy (NDP) and New Economic Policy (NEP). In terms of political, the government need to focus on establishment of proper institutions, framework, regulatory bodies need to ensure that the competition among others is protected, formulating good regulations. Okay, in terms of economic, in the year 1990, the National Electricity Board was converted as Tenaga Nasional Berhad (TNB) as the first approach in implementing the government's privatization policy. Subsequently, the Ministry of Finance carried about 70% of the share. Next, we go to in terms of technology. The first example is the expertise in the manufacture of the car and motorcycles. In the 80s, Malaysia is a country recovering from the economic downturn and are still in developing world. Okay, the last term is which is social. First, unemployment rate will be reduced as private sector will be increased alongside creating huge amount of job vacancy. And then stimulate competition among people in terms of productivity and services, whereas act as development in the country. And lastly, locating a professional and experienced body to overcome and tackle the major problem while generating profit and boost the economy. Alright, that's it.
Now, we will go in depth with quantitative and qualitative analysis for privatization. Before we go further, let me brief a little bit what is quantitative and what is qualitative analysis. In simple terms, quantitative basically a quantified analysis or involving numbers, digit or magnitude. In the other hand, qualitative is interpretation, overall outcome or descriptive analysis. For example, the color and the shape of an object. So, with regard of privatization in Malaysia, they approximate of 100 institutions, bodies or projects that have been privatized during the year 1990 and the year 2000. One of them is National Electricity Board, which also have been renamed to Tenaga Nasional Berhad (TNB) after it had been privatized. After this privatization, there's a float in KLSE, Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange, where 70% of the stock have been held by the Malaysian Ministry of Finance. From here, a fraction of national financial burden and government expenditure have been transferred to the private sector, in this case, TNB. The benefit from this action, the Malaysian government don't need to provide electricity for the Malaysian citizen, because TNB will do that on behalf of the government, while the government generate income from the 70% stockholder from the TNB.
In addition, this policy gave a new boost to the country image. Rural community will see that the Malaysia is a country that is efficient, effective, especially in governing the country. The ability to transport the country throughout the administrative system in a systematic way. Comprehensive public transport, facilities of international standards, and human resources that are knowledgeable. Thank you. Okay, that's all from us.
Thank you.